everyone, and welcome to the Culture Cast. I'm Chris Stachio, and I'm joined by two people who the last time they were on this podcast, they were together talking about Lord of the Rings. However, this is not going to be a 3-hour podcast, or I guess it might, but I would be shocked if it was. I'm talking about the host of the Projection Booth podcast, Mr. Mike White.
Hello.
And the host of the One Season Show and the Scary Stories We Tell podcast. See, this time I didn't forget. Jess Byard.
Hello.
And on this episode of the Culture Cast, we're talking about, and I can't stress this enough, folks, a film that came out in 2020, and it's not just going to see Ghostbusters again, or somehow The Croods 2, which is a movie that does exist.
It saved the box office. It saved Hollywood.
It's playing at the little one-screen theater right down the street from me.
Well, I can guarantee you none of us are going to see The Croods 2, but we are going to be talking about Christopher Landon's follow-up to Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You, Happy Death Day to Freaky, or Happy Freaky Death Day, or pretty much just the same movie as those two in a very similar vein, talking about 2020's Freaky.
Good morning.
That's me, Millie. Ordinary, boring Millie.
I love your dress. I think I saw it at Discount Bonanza.
Okay, so I was never the most popular.
Homecoming's this weekend.
Booker is gonna be at the dance.
And boys never really noticed me.
Wow!
Honestly, if this was a horror movie, I'd be one of the first ones to get killed.
Cue the creepy dude in the mask.
Like I said. But actually, it turns out
Where am I?
I didn't get killed.
Oh my god, why do I sound like that?
I woke up in the killer's body.
The Blissfield Butcher strikes again.
Don't freak out.
You're black! I'm gay! We are so dead!
Ow! Will you stop? It's me, it's Millie. Hail, Blissfield. High, feel our glory and our might.
And not only is that psycho wearing my body, he's killing it.
He's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Who knows how many of our friends he's gonna kill?
Are you sure this is safe?
No.
Oh my god, it's a slaughterhouse.
I have like less than 6 hours to swap back or I'm gonna be stuck in his body forever.
Hurry up, loser, I gotta take a dump.
I have to admit, it hasn't been all bad.
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Move! How's that feel? I'll make you wish your stupid face was never born. Oh my god, did you just pee yourself?
Yes!
Whoa, what am I wearing?
I'm actually really liking this for you.
Oh my god, it's supposed to be a butcher!
Great, we're gonna get killed by Murder Barbie.
I can't wait to kill you.
Time to stop this asshole.
We're in this together.
I want my body back.
Come and get it.
Look, I know I look like the butcher, but it's Millie.
He's crazy.
Okay, Booker, can you look at me, please?
Dry up, bitch.
Booker, help! Booker!
Will you shut up?
So it's directed by the aforementioned Christopher Landon. It is written by Christopher Landon and Michael Kennedy. It stars Vince Vaughn, Kathryn Newton, Alan Ruck is in there for a hot minute, Celeste O'Connor, and Misha Oshirovich. And the film is once again a body swap film, but this time the main character swaps bodies with a serial killer, and she has 24 hours to swap her body back. That serial killer happens to be Vince Vaughn. They swap bodies and hilarity ensues. So with that setup out of the way, Mr. White, this is the first time we've talked about a new movie in quite some time. Almost a year, actually. Since last time we talked about The Last Jedi, or The Last Skywalker, whatever the fuck that movie was called. What did you think of
Fuck that movie.
Yeah, fuck that movie for sure. What did you think of Freaky?
I thought it was all right. I enjoyed it. I don't think I'll go back and rewatch it anytime soon. I laughed a few times, genuine laughs. And, I mean, I it's tough for me to enjoy Vince Vaughn films right now just because I know where he's leaning politically, and it's tough for me to get over that. It was a little one note as far as his performance. There were some things that I would have liked to have seen a little different or a little bit more. But yeah, my thumbnail is that I enjoyed it.
What about you, Jess? But Mike, are you making a face in the thumbnail like? No, is that the customary YouTube like shocked face goes with that thumbnail? Come find out our new idea. Yeah, fuck that shit.
It's a picture from the movie with an arrow pointing at something, and I never talk about it in the YouTube video.
Oh boy, you're really taking him to task, Jesus Christ. What about you, Jess? What did you think of Freaky?
So I didn't even know that this movie existed until you asked me to be on this episode.
Boy, that's a good and bad thing.
Quickly realized it was a Freaky Friday reimagining, whatever you want to call it. It's fine, which is an issue right now. And I mean, I guess for a movie that's coming out in 2020 where you're having to do very limited things because of the nature of filming, I mean, there were some genuine laughs. I will agree with Mike on that. There were some times that I really did laugh. But, I mean, overall, it's just fine. And, I mean, it's nothing exciting or new for the genre, obviously. It's a remake of sorts. I thought that most of the characters' performances and just characters in general were pretty one-note. We weren't really at all trying to have any developed characters. And Chris, like you said, this movie doesn't have the exact same plot, I guess, as Happy Death Day, but it's very similar, and there's a lot of similar things that like carry over. You know, Happy Death Day, we have a dead mom. Freaky, we have a dead dad. It's this situation where it's this young meek girl who gets turned into, you know, this, I guess, for all intents and purposes, badass, even though they're a serial killer, but. It was fine.
Wow. Yeah, I actually liked it a lot. Who'd have thought? Here's the thing. And you know what? This is our one opportunity to talk about this, Jess, so let's take our opportunity to talk about it. A certain someone produced this film. That person being Ryan Turek, who may or may not have had sexual assault allegations leveled against him to the point where he completely disappeared off the face of the earth.
Right.
Perfectly fine. And like Mike just said, taking the fact that Vince Vaughn is, you know, kind of a shithead out of the equation, just like taking someone like Ryan Turek out of the equation, and he's prominently on the producer side of this film because obviously he works for Blumhouse. That
he's like one of their like biggest producers. Yeah, like he's a producer on pretty much every Blumhouse movie.
All of that aside, I liked it a lot. It's nothing new. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's not even attempting to do anything new.
No.
It turns into every trope that it can think of and or put itself into a position where that trope is a thing. Look, here's the thing though. In 2020, we don't have a lot of new films. We're never getting another Happy Death Day film, unfortunately. That's kind of a shame, given the way the second one ended, and given the fact that I think that franchise has a lot of legs as kind of a halfway subversive take on that genre of films, and this is a spiritual sequel to that. I mean, this film is Happy Death Day to you.
Happy Death Day could turn into like a cool sort of like sci-fi anthology.
Yeah. And this,
where it's like, okay, we've done this main story in the movies. Now let's just kind of explore this universe a bit more and see where the sci-fi aspects go.
That second movie, if memory serves, because I've only seen the second movie once, it doesn't start off with our main character and it goes to like a side character and it goes through them, which I thought was really clever. And I almost wish that the whole movie had been about the side character. And I can see what you're saying as far as like this week it's this guy and next week it's this guy. I mean, though
there could be different things happening, you know, like we don't know what the extent, because we just learned in that second, you know, spoilers to everybody. Sorry if you've not seen Happy Death Day or Happy Death Day 2, but they've reached the subject of time travel, whatever, but that means that's opening more doors to other things. So that it could be, maybe there's hope that it'll spin off into some streaming company will want to do something. But I think that would be a cool approach for it, because I think the movies could get done to death.
Oh yeah. Though they leave Freaky so open to a sequel, it's not even funny. Where it's just like, boy, hope nobody gets that dagger again. Bwah, bwah, bwah.
Yeah,
Well, and I mean, the references and homages and however you want to frame them throughout the movie are all pretty blatant. I mean,
the first kill is literally a callback to Halloween.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
We have a heavy Scream vibe going on at the end of that one too, where the parents come home. We have a shot in a bathtub that's very Nightmare on Elm Street reminiscent. And look, I get it. This is sort of an age where it's become a little bit of an issue for me, where it's like the people who are making the horror movies right now are super fans and sort of just making movies for their friends for the most part.
It also seems like they have to prove that they're fans of the genre.
Yeah, where it's like, see, we do know this stuff. And it's like, I don't care, guys. I really don't care. If you've never seen The Exorcist, I'm not going to judge you for it. But if you can write a really awesome fucking story, cool, great. You don't have to have seen every single movie to be a good storyteller.
I agree with you 100%. The problem is those aren't for us. We obviously know that. I think here's the real issue. And again, we've talked about this a little bit, but the reality is the slasher genre is fucking dead. And it has been dead for... It's been dead in the sense that, like, there's no way to bring it back to the golden age.
Right. There have been some good ones here and there, but they've really subverted the idea of slasher.
Right. And look, at this...
Final Girls comes to mind.
Yeah. At this point, a film like Freaky is what you can make if you're not going to just make a sequel to an IP, or you're going to completely subvert expectations and make something else. And again, here's the thing. The slasher genre, for me, has always felt restrictive. And with something like this, it opens it up. But the problem is, instead of truly opening it up, you are just saying, oh yeah, there's this thing in Halloween, let's do that, because that's what people want. And maybe it is what people want. It's not what I want. It's clearly not what you want, Jess.
It's what a certain group that's keeping the genre going right now wants. And that's fine, because it goes in waves. It's whoever's pulling the strings at the time. And by pulling the strings, I mean writing, directing, producing these movies. Whoever's doing that at the time is going to be, they're going to judge the taste on it. They're going to turn the taste. And eventually all the, fan bros that grew up in the 80s and can't let it go will not be pulling those strings anymore.
There are some issues that I have with this film, and the biggest thing for me. Okay, a couple things. We never really explore who or what the Vince Vaughn character is.
I'm okay with that, though.
A little, like, I don't necessarily need to know. I mean, I don't need to get the whole, like, my mother didn't love me,
right,
or she dressed me up in women's clothes, like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, or something like that, or like, oh, this is what it actually feels like to be a girl because my mother treated me like this, or whatever. We don't get that. We get that scene where she wakes up and, like, he's got all that freaky shit around his room, and he's, like, sleeping in...
And you get the idea that I felt that it was some kind of like voodoo thing-esque, like, in vein of like Child's Play. Right. Where it's like a Chucky thing where it's just like, he's into this. But we never know why. And I guess we don't really know why too much with Chucky either, but it's a different thing.
Well, the other thing that got me was then she, who is now he, suddenly knows how to dress like the better woman. He is a better woman than she is, in that he knows how to put on makeup better than she does. He knows how to dress, quote unquote, better than she does. And that was a little offensive to me, I'm not going to lie, but I mean, this is a comedy, so I kind of got over it.
There's a few things in this movie that I wonder how will age.
Like a gay best friend?
Yeah, the gay best friend, which is the trope. More so the line in where he's talking about wanting to go to homecoming for the straight boys who get drunk and decide they're fluid, and the other friend says that's kind of rapey, and he says good, and I was like, I don't know if maybe that's the best line you could have.
It is not the best. It is not the best line, and it is I don't know. Does this sound terrible? But the director is gay.
Well, they justify it later. They justify it later because he gets, barely almost gay bash, but yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It felt weird. I don't know if that's just personal preference. I guess at that point, it just felt.
I mean, there's also a lot of again. I mean, look, this is.
Vince Vaughn being in the teenage girl's body and like grabbing her boobs is pretty strange. Also,
yeah, but to be fair, that happens in like every body swap movie that I've seen this month. I mean, to be fair, I will tell you this much: it's less awkward than Fred Savage in Judge Reinhold's body, looking down at his own father's cock and going, "Oh, this is great!" Like the whole scene where Vince Vaughn is as, Millie is as Vince Vaughn, and she's flopping her penis back and forth. I'm a lot more okay with that than Judge Reinhold's looking at his penis, his father's, ostensibly his dad's dick, and going, "Oh, great!" Like, what in the? That's
fair. I guess it's just the implication because Vince Vaughn's character, who's like, however old Vince Vaughn is in this 17-year-old girl's body. And then just the idea, it's just weird. Sure, yes, they do it in all the body swap movies because it's like, oh, of course, if you went into someone else's body, what would be the first thing you would be checking? But the gay best friend, not that I don't enjoy that character, not that character didn't provide some of the laughs that I was talking about. And not, as Chris, you said, the director himself is gay. So, I mean, I can't really... It's not my place to judge him on that, but there were just some things that felt a tiny bit outdated, which actually I meant to ask, when was this movie filmed? When did they actually
shoot it? It was shot earlier this year. It was actually shot February to end of March.
Okay, so I'm sure they cranked out the script in less than a month. And then powered through production. So again, having some, giving some leeway to to this production that is, and you can tell, I mean, there's not a lot of extras. I mean, until that dance scene, I guess. I wonder how that would have been a nightmare to have to film in COVID. Yikes.
That was probably filmed pre-COVID, I would assume. You can tell when things are pre and post COVID at this point. Because there's scenes where it's just 3 people, and okay, you probably could do that.
And they're 6 feet apart.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, it's again for a movie about
other than the gay kiss in the back of the car, which was a little strange. I was just like, I mean, yes, I understand that there's a girl in the man's body, but it just felt a little too easy for this guy to be right. I mean, I know we're all very heteroflexible on this call, but I'm still just I don't see myself making out with Vince Vaughn at this point. I'm sorry.
Here's the thing, though. Again, not to defend the movie, but of the things I've seen this month where it's a similar scenario, I would take 2 adult actors making out over Fred Savage, possibly kissing a 30-year-old woman. Again, I know what they're going for, and I'm not trying to make excuses for the movie, but of the things I've seen this month, it does all of those things way better. Mm-hmm. So much better that I don't have to worry about Judge Reinhold's cock. I don't have to worry about Fred Savage making out with a woman who's twice his age. I don't have to worry about, Kirk Cameron at all. Thank God he's nowhere near this fucking movie. With that's the perspective I'm coming from. So it's a different perspective, but you guys are completely right. It's just, there's some things that just feel like they're in there because it's a body swap movie. And, like, you don't have to pander to all the body swap tropes. You just don't. It's not required because you're playing in this subgenres.
Subvert some things.
Yeah, you don't have to play in the sandbox completely. There are things that you can choose to not mess with. And I would have liked not seeing some of those usual tropey things because they just don't they don't serve a point in this film.
Right, they don't. They just serve to kind of feel as a weird, outdated thing where you're like, come on, do we need to do that? Like, we can move past this. Let's just get on with it. I will say that I was very pleasantly surprised by the gore in this movie.
Oh, that was nice. I was laughing quite a bit
all
at
these
the
kills
beginning.
are pretty great. I want to know why this high school has a cryo chamber, though.
That was a little strange.
I'm like, why
did
they
that
just
happen?
have this body-sized cryo chamber in this high school basement?
You mean that's not how the high schoolers who are on the football teams right now rehab? They don't have they don't have like $1 million machine just in the basement of their school.
I haven't been anywhere near a high school in like 15 years.
I think that's probably a good thing, and for me, it's a court order. So, it is. Look, that is the one thing about this movie that I am shocked by is it has such good kills. It really utilizes the genre.
Like the first scene where we're wiping out that first like just group to get the knife. That kid with the bottle, I won't spoil it for anybody if you haven't watched it yet, but the kid with the who gets it with the bottle that's probably one of my favorite kills I've seen in a long time in a movie like this.
Oh yeah, I laughed out loud when that happened. I was very happy about that. I mean, to your point, Chris, as far as like how this compares with other body swap movies, yes, this was probably like, because I've seen all these body swap movies, I enjoyed this definitely the most, and it might be one of the lesser problematic ones, even with all the gender stuff that's going on, because I think she's 18 years old, so that helps.
We know for sure that that Josh, the best friend, is 18 because he says it. I don't know about her for sure.
If she's not, she's close.
I would also just rather have, like, if we're not going to go into the parents and, like, we're just going to have a generic, like, oh, my dad is dead, so everyone's sad story, then I would rather the parents just kind of be non-existent than them try to shoehorn this, like, I should care about her alcoholic mother who leaves her at school too late and is the reason that she gets attacked by the serial killer. And then we just kind of forget about her for the rest of the movie until the end where she's evidently fine.
I forgot that she was alcoholic. I thought she just fell asleep.
No, they do that pan shot from the bottle to her, or the dolly shot from the bottle to her face. That's why her sister's like pissed off all the time, I guess. I
guess I'm just used to day drinking.
Yeah, I don't. They try and make you care about some of these things, or they want you to care, but they don't try hard enough to make you care. Like, I don't, and especially knowing that, you know, having seen Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day 2, and knowing that they don't really tend to kill off the main cast, it kind of takes anything, like, sort of out. You know, it takes some of the surprise elements out of it when you pretty much know you're getting the kills you are getting, which, you know, they're not limited in this movie. There are quite a few. They're just mostly at the beginning. But they're not going to be anybody of note, so you're never really going to care.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of wish that they had higher stakes.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It never really felt like I never really felt like anybody, like, after she was in Vince Vaughn's body, it kind of just felt like, okay, they're just always like a step and a half in front of the cops and everybody else, so they never really are in a bad situation where they get stuck. They just have these spar-offs with Vince Vaughn, with the serial killer and her body, but it's just kind of a move from location to location to location thing.
Yeah, and the emphasis of how weak she is as a person, I was just like, that's a little much too. I mean, I've had my ass kicked by girls. I know that y'all can pack a punch.
Right. There's just some things that feel weirdly off, but there's kind of always those things in these sort of offshoot Blumhouse movies. I don't know what you want to call them. They're subcategory of movies they don't release in theaters. Well, when they release things in theaters.
I was about to say there was a time when things did come out in theaters. That time is not now. I really wish they had called this movie Freaky Friday the 13th. I mean, like, I know you can't do that, but like,
oh no,
I know,
would never let
right.
I'm well aware, but like, it is so on the nose, right? Like,
yeah,
right.
There's a lot of it that's really on the nose, and there's, again, like, maybe if I were a teenager and seeing this and not as, familiar with the genre as I am, I would enjoy it more. And I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad movie. It's just, I don't know. I could watch a bunch of movies that are very similar, to this plot. And it just, I'll say that the kills were great. There were good laughs, but the performances overall weren't really given any room to breathe. They were kind of just like, okay, you are the stereotype. Do it.
Well, and again, to Mike's point, you have Kathryn Newton, who is she's not a bad actress, but we're never given an opportunity to see her on screen. It's weird to me, having seen now this is the third body swap movie, fourth technically, that I've watched for this month. Of all the movies, this one is the most disproportionate when it comes to the amount of time spent with the hero. Or the characters that are body swapped. I know in this movie you have a different setup because in the other ones, the two characters aren't trying to avoid each other. In this movie, obviously, Vince Vaughn, as Kathryn Newton, is meant to avoid the other character until they figure out a way to solve the issue. In the other movies, they're actively together most of the movie, so it's also kind of weird that Kathryn Newton is really not asked to do much. She's really not. Well,
and also, when she is body swapped with Vince Vaughn, and I didn't really understand this, because when, our main character wakes up in the serial killer's body, she is immediately hurt. Like, she wakes up the same way she does in the last scene we saw her wake up. She's all, like, peppy in her, self. But when Vince Vaughn's character wakes up in her body, he's like mute or just choosing not to talk, but I don't really get why, because if you're trying to perform a successful body swap, why are you going to act like the world's biggest fucking idiot? I'm just going to stand here with my head drooped down and holding a knife
and try to kill my sister within the first 5 seconds.
Out of character.
Yeah. I mean, he is so, the character is so one-dimensional that he just kills and that's it. And then there's all that weird stuff where it's like, oh, that's just an urban myth. And it's like, well, was he away for a while? Why is this an urban myth? I feel like I'm reading too much into this, but it kind of falls apart. And also, like, is it 24 hours or is it midnight? And what's good? Because it wasn't
clearly defined rules aren't clearly defined.
Stabbed. Yeah, exactly.
Well, but you don't understand, Mike. It's being 12 midnight means that they can use a throwaway line from earlier in the film to resolve the entire film.
Pro tip.
I was just sitting waiting for the punchline because I was like, there's no way that they don't show a close-up shot of the fucking watch and that kid, the love interest played by Uriah Shelton, setting the watch. He's setting it 5 minutes slow. I mean, that has been determined and spoken by the character into existence early on. So of course if they're smart, they'll return to it. But the problem is they made it so obvious that the audience is not going to forget that they've mentioned it. Because that's the best way to do this, is to make it so that the audience kind of forgets long enough for you to spring it on them. And maybe we're just way too dialed in. Maybe the three of us are way too neurotic to let something like that just pass on by us without paying attention. But so goddamn on the nose.
I mean, there's truth. There's something to be said about that, as being people who watch a lot of movies and who are much more analytical about it. We know the cues and things to look for, the script tricks and foreshadowing notes to look for. But yeah, that was like, it's such a weird line, because it's something like, what? Okay, thanks for telling me this. Like, of course, that's a well-known thing that people tell you to do. Why would this kid just be like...
Right. Well, he was so desperate to talk to the nerdy girl in class,
Right, and let's talk about Alan Ruck.
Oh my God, what was Alan Ruck doing in this movie?
I don't know, and this was one of my issues here, where I was like, I'm not understanding.
Wow, yeah, the most abusive shop teacher I've ever seen.
And I was talking to my husband, and I'm like, look, maybe in 1985, when Alan Ruck was playing high schoolers, maybe shop teachers could get away with talking to you like that. But in 2020, I do not think so. In a high school like that, where everybody's parents are super rich, there's no way that shop teacher's getting away with, like, publicly humiliating students in front of everybody.
Right. And telling you that your project's due on Monday and then calling for it on Friday. That just doesn't happen. Yeah.
That's not even real. Like, why not just make him a hard ass? You don't have to make him like a complete, I mean, look, well, here's the thing, right? The way I looked at it, as I'm sure y'all did, the first sequence of the film before they body swap is, here's the justification for why all these characters are going to die. And it's exactly. Like, again, if you watch body swap movies, and you've watched as many in succession as I have at this fucking point, there is always that thing in these movies. I mean, in Like Father, Like Son, and vice versa, you had Ajay Naidu bullying Fred Savage's character, and then Fred Savage as Judge Reinhold comes in and gets his comeuppance. He doesn't beat the shit out of him, but he's like, hey, I'm going to call the cops on you, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't kill him, but it's effectively the same trope. It's effectively the same formulaic device. And it's, look, I hate to break it to everybody who wrote this film, but it's lazy as fuck. Like, it's straight up.
Well, that's like I was saying when I'm like, we know that from Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day 2, it's not in Chris Landon's nature to kill off the main cast. So we have these characters who are awful, so they automatically become the ones who are like, okay, they're dead. Okay, they're dead. So it takes out any kind of like surprise, which is hard to have. It's hard to have surprise elements in slashers to begin with, because they are such a formulaic thing, and because they have been done to death for decades now. So why take even more of the surprise out of it when you're just you may as well literally just paint targets on people.
Well, that one character's kind of rapey, so he needs to die. That one character is rapey, so he needs to die. It's like, what?
The teacher's really horrible, so they need to get chopped by. I mean, hey, all these kills were great.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, that's the sad thing, is these kills almost don't deserve to be in this movie. Like, they're so good.
Well, and here's the thing also about that, and they are so good, but that's another thing when I'm talking about, like, making movies for your friends, where I think that a lot of I just kind of feel that a lot of focus went more into the effects than into the story.
I can see
because that's what they're making for. And I mean, hey, you can argue that that's what movies are, and you should movies are supposed to be more action driven, blah 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 blah. I personally think it's dependent on the movie, but I feel like there was a lot of time spent on that, where it's like, this is our selling point, which, fine, hey, I get it. Obviously, I'm a fan. But this is if there were other horror movies that came out, which I'm sure there are plenty on the streaming things that I have not checked out this year. But if I were making a list, of things that stood out to me that came out in 2020, this one doesn't really, I don't think it would be on there. Because I just want to see some new stuff, everyone.
So I have some news off of the ticker, which is,
who died?
Kathryn Newton is going to be Scott Lang's daughter in the next Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. And right before we started to record this, I read this just overwrought article about this actress Emma Fuhrman, who was Scott Lang's daughter in Avengers Endgame. You may remember that she was on screen for at least 5 minutes.
I was about to say, there was a female character playing the older version of his daughter, right?
Yes, there was. And this article from comicbookmovie.com or something was just painting it as this major tragedy that Emma Fuhrman was not going to come back as Cassie Lang, and that it was recast as Kathryn Newton. And I'm just like, he had a daughter. Oh, yeah, I guess she was in there. I can't even remember what she looks like. It's like, who cares that she got...
Okay, now that you mentioned Kathryn Newton, here's something I want to talk about that I have not gotten a chance to talk about because I kind of forgot that I wanted to mention it. Can everyone in this movie stop pretending that Kathryn Newton is not attractive?
Oh,
holy!
Right, exactly.
I really hate that shit in movies. Like, her hair's down. Oh no, she's so ugly. Like, no.
She put on a leather jacket.
Yeah, like, I can't stand that shit in movies because there's no way in hell... Look, every woman is beautiful. Yeah, fucking roast me on Twitter. I don't give a shit. Every woman is beautiful, period. No caveats to that. But you can't convince me that someone who is a actress who is being paid money in a film who looks like Kathryn Newton, there's no way you can unpretty her. I'm surprised they didn't give her glasses. I really am.
Oh, I know.
Like, that's the thing. I was waiting for it. Like, she's... What the fuck is the movie with Freddie Prinze Jr.? Where
is it?
She's all that?
Yeah,
like that. Like, that's this level of nonsense. Yeah, like...
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Slow-mo reveal.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but Kathryn Newton is a gorgeous woman. And stop trying to convince us that she's ugly. It's not working. Like, that is a useless endeavor on your part, film. Come on.
Well, yeah, her hair's messy, and she's dressed in a beaver costume.
Right. Ha. Which, I mean, if I were the school mascot and there was a serial killer running around, I would just keep my head on so that I just looked like a weirdo sitting in the middle of the parking lot dressed like we were. Like, no, maybe I don't want to kill them.
I really hate that shit in movies. Like, it makes me roll my eyes. I'm just like, and they do it in body swap movies a lot. Like, they did it in the Disney Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis Freaky Friday. They did the same thing where it's like, Jamie Lee Curtis is an old woman. Like, what? Like, what crack are you smoking? Like, come on, guys. Like, don't go that far into the low end of the kiddie pool because it's unnecessary. And that might be a soapbox, but it's a soapbox we're standing on because it just doesn't help the plot. Because again, like Mike mentioned, why does Vince Vaughn's character know how to do all these things so well? He? Is he? What?
Yeah, so strange.
It makes no sense.
I do kind of feel like the description of the character was like, he's like Charles Lee Ray, knows how to do all this voodoo stuff. And then that's as far as it goes.
Even a character like Charles Lee Ray is more well thought out than Blissfield Butcher, no name outside of that.
Well, to be fair... We don't have the sequels yet.
Yeah, we'll find out all about him.
He died.
Oh, I'm sure.
He double. Well, here's the thing. He double died, and he's human.
Yeah, sure. So was Michael at first, and so was Jason at first, and so was Freddy at first. And then they all get turned into these demon things.
The only caveat with that is few characters have died as hard as this character hasn't come back. Freddy, Jason, and Michael notwithstanding.
Jason up.
I mean, like Michael Myers in the first one just gets shot and falls off the balcony. I mean, Vince Vaughn gets stabbed through the chest and then kicked through the chest. I don't think he's coming back. I think if they do another one of these movies, it'll be new characters with a new setting because that's the smart way to do it. When it's not the characters that matter, it's the plot device that they use to swap bodies.
Exactly.
I'm not surprised. I'm kind of surprised they didn't, because a lot of the body swap movies, the last two that I've seen, and Freaky Friday attempts to do it and then calls it off at the last moment, I'm surprised they didn't have a body swap happen in this movie towards the end again. I mean, every other movie I've seen did it. Why not this one? Is it because the device through which you have to body swap means you have to fucking stab the other person? I guess that's it.
You stab them, but you seem to be okay, like, the next morning, right?
And then you wait 24 hours? Or does it only do that because it's the 13th? Or did they just make it the 13th because they wanted to?
I think it's the latter.
See,
I think it's the latter. I think it was I think they did it on Friday the 13th because they couldn't name it Friday the 13th. So it's like, if we can't have our cake, we could at least imply the cake. Cake implied. It is Friday the 13th. And I don't even think they needed to smatter our screen with the text either. They did a pretty good job of showing this is the 11th. It's a Wednesday. Like, holy shit, guys. it felt a little hand-holdy, and I think we've kind of already addressed that ad nauseum. But sitting here talking with y'all, my opinion on the movie my positivity has lessened substantially, and there's nothing wrong with that.
We have dampened your mood.
I think what I realized from watching this movie is I would rather just watch Happy Death Day.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like I would rather just turn something on that's different. I don't know. Like I don't want to find something that's just going to inevitably be background noise. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think this movie is like ultimately built for that.
I mean, this is making me actually want to watch Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. I'd like to see more of Christopher Landon's stuff.
I saw that. That was the surprise movie they did one year when when my friends and I went to this marathon called 12 Hours of Terror that they used to do in Cleveland in October. But they always have like a special surprise movie. And sometimes it's old, sometimes it's new. And they did Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. And I would say that I think that I might like it a little better just because I just really don't like Vince Vaughn either. Even, political leanings aside, I just don't like him as an actor, really. He's pretty bland to me.
I like him a lot, and so that's why it's been such a heartbreak for me to find out that he's...
I'm with you. I'm with you, Mike. I like Vince Vaughn a lot, but here's the thing. I completely get where you're coming from.
Yes, I can see where you wouldn't like him because he's very easily dislikable, and especially because he kind of plays the same character a lot, and when he does, it's usually obnoxious. Like that character from Mr. and Mrs. Smith is just, oof, man, is that bad.
Fuck, I forgot he was in that movie. Holy shit.
I would say that my complaints across the board for Chris Landon are just a little bit that the tone just seems slightly... I don't know. He just seems like a few years behind in the humor. Mm. Like when we saw Scout's Guide, it was funny. There's a really good scene, music. There's actually two good scenes. The first one's the beginning, and the other one's about halfway through, both queued up to music that work really well. But there were just a few things, and if you watch it, I am curious to hear what you think about it, because there are just some things that you're like, man, if this came out, a few years before it actually came out, people would have probably thought it was super hilarious, but it's just a little bit too late. And I think that you sort of see that a little bit here with some of the humor, where it's like, if, maybe this were 5-6 years ago, some of this stuff wouldn't have felt as awkward, but because we're where we are right now, it does. And I think that maybe that's just something that's a commonality throughout his movies. That's always going to be a tiny bit of an issue for me. But I would be curious to see what you think of Scouts, and Chris, you too, if you've not seen it.
I haven't seen it. I've seen everything else that Chris Landon's worked on, including that terrible Paranormal Activity film.
I was going to ask. The marked ones, which had to have been, number 5 at least?
The marked ones was the last one, right? No.
It's like a sidequel or something.
Yes, it is the Spanish Paranormal Activity. So it is the second to last one.
Second to last one. Okay.
Yeah, they released the Ghost Dimension afterwards, which was the 3D
These titles.
one. I
support the SADAC amendment, which, if you aren't familiar with it, it is the naming of things properly with numbers. You can have a subtitle, but you have to have the numbers. Enough of this.
You're telling me...
You don't get to just have 14
Yes. You're telling me that you can't name your film Suicide Squad and then name the sequel, reboot, prequel, no idea what in the fuck it is, The Suicide Squad, and that won't confuse people? Is that what you're telling me?
As a fan of Predator, Predators, The Predator, that's what I'm telling you.
Boy, I forgot about Predator, Predators, The Predator. How about it's Predator, literally nothing else matters. Except for Predator 2.
Predator 2.
Movies?
Predator 2.
Oh, yeah, well...
Oh, God. Rambo 2 First... No, Rambo First Blood Part 2. Yeah, that was weird.
Oh, well, and don't forget, with Rambo, they abandoned the First Blood part because everybody just called the movie Rambo.
And then that last one being called Rambo, that, or was that 2 movies ago? Who knows?
It was two movies ago was Rambo. The last movie was Rambo. No, the last movie was Rambo, Last Blood. Get it? Because it's like he had first blood.
What happened to the middle blood?
That was Rambo 3.
What happened to the blood that Goldilocks chose?
Well, unfortunately, the middle blood was taken care of by Rick.
Boy, yeah. It sure was, wasn't it? It's, I mean, look, Happy Death Day to You is a great title. So, yeah. Yeah, Happy Death Day to You is not only great, but also kind of funny.
I not that I have anything against the lead actress in this movie, and maybe it's more so just the nature of the character, which was supposed to be, or the really meek, nice girl next door, never hurt a fly, and she's got her sassy friends. But I like the actress in the Happy Death Day movies more. I think that she has more of a personality, and I think maybe it comes out of the screen a bit more for me, and I think maybe if she were in this, I might have had a bit more fun with it. Because I think when that character is, in her bad girl phase, we get the look, but we don't get any of the attitude that comes with it. And I think that, whether that's just lack of direction and anything to do or performance-wise, I can't say, but
I will say that the reason we don't get to see her as the badass is because the moment she becomes the actual badass, that's when the film ends. And it's like, and like you just said, that is the interesting character that I wanted to see. Because she's like, I am a fucking piece. Like, hell yeah. And then it's like, oh, but yeah, the movie's over. Oops.
Okay, cool.
Like, God damn it.
Like, we just spent this whole time with you being this kind of pseudo ditzy, and that's also kind of the thing where the dark comedy of horror kind of in tone, where it's hard to balance, where it's like, okay, you're going to go back into your body, but you killed people, just so you know.
Right.
This is not going to, you're over here in Vince Vaughn's body, doing cheers and being all cutesy and fun, but there's still actual murder.
I'm like, how do you convince anyone of that? Oh, wait, you don't have to, because no one ever saw you did it.
No.
Do it. So,
exactly.
Yeah, it's the I mean, again, that's the thing about body swap movies.
Everything's very convenient, which it has to be for this.
Yeah, body swap movies, everything has to tie itself neatly into a bow. The film has to tie itself neatly into a bow. Because how do you get... Yeah, I mean, normal body swap movies, it's like, how does he explain to the people in the meeting that he was so weird? In this movie, it's, how the fuck does she explain that she straight up murdered 8 people? What is that? What are the implications of that? I mean...
brutally
yes, she
murdered
literally saws Alan Ruck in half.
Yeah. And maybe, she wouldn't have that memory necessarily, but...
Still murdered a man.
I don't know. I think there would be some sort of trauma left over. And at the end, it's just kind of like, I'm good.
I think that's the inherent problem with doing a body swap movie as a horror movie.
Now, if we could do a body swap movie.
To be fair, Vice Versa had a little body horror in it because Fred Savage and Judge Reinhold don't actually switch bodies. Fred Savage morphs into Judge Reinhold, and he grows, and his fucking feet shoot out of the shoes and everything. And Fred Savage or Judge Reinhold shrinks into Fred Savage. It's super weird, and that's all the body swap, body horror that's in that movie. And now you never have to watch it. Yeah, I appreciate Chris Landon and Michael Kennedy trying to do something different, trying to approach the slasher subgenre of horror in a new way, in an interesting way, in a way that, again, ostensibly has never been done before, at least with this reliance on this trope of body swaps. It hasn't been done this way.
Right.
But this script needed 1 or 2 more eyes on it.
Now... I will say that I think that maybe body swap in horror hasn't been done too much, but I will say, possessed limbs are definitely a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, my hand came off, and now I have the serial killer's hand, or let's do Mark Hamill's eye and body bags.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I guess maybe body swap movies have been done in horror. They're just called exorcism movies.
Well, that's a whole other kind of swap.
I guess in Skeleton Key there's body swap, but like, you know, that's a oddly specific reference to a movie that nobody cares about.
Shocker.
In that movie, that twist is done so well that movie is propped up by that twist. That's it.
I haven't seen that one, but I have seen the first Scooby-Doo movie, which has souls flying around.
It sure does, to the point where Sarah Michelle Gellar as Freddie Prinze Jr. grabs her titties and goes, "I can look at myself naked."
Always hilarious.
What a laugher that one is. It's bottom of the barrel, lowest common denominator bullshit humor that, like, while I appreciate it, and I know that if you're making a body swap movie and it's, you know, it's different genders of the characters, you're gonna do something like that, but, like, guys, leave it at the door. It's been done so many times now. Unless you're doing something different, it's gonna just, nope. No thanks, I'm good. That's why I'd rather watch Happy Death Day. And not this. Because, I mean, Happy Death Day, at least it does something different with the horror genre as a whole. I mean, the second movie is a sci-fi movie. Like, it's not even a horror movie.
Right, and I like how the character in that changes. I feel that that's more earned than the way that we have this one.
Yeah.
Right. This one feels like, okay, you went through this bad thing, now you get to be an awesome person.
No ramifications to you straight up murdering people.
No ramifications, no nothing. It'll just be fine.
Yeah. So, Jess, what would you give the film out of 5?
I would probably give it a 2.5, just because I'm never going to watch it again. I have no need to ever watch it again. But the kills were awesome, and there were, like, 3 good laughs.
What about you, Mike?
I think I liked it more, but I'd still probably give it a 3.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3.5. I mean, we're kind of all in the same range. We're one point, 1 point away from each other. It's good, but unfortunately, you know, I would genuinely be curious to see if this film had come out before Happy Death Day, if we would like it more, because it does feel oddly derivative of a better series of films, also made by the same director. Also made by the same studio. You know, that's the reality. And I really genuinely wonder, obviously we can't live in that universe, but in the universe that we live in, it's a 3.5. It's good, not great. It also came out in 2020, and it's like one of the last movies that's going to get released this year at all, so that's it.
That new Tom Hanks movie.
Sure. Whenever the fuck that comes out, wherever the fuck it comes out, and whoever the fuck's going to watch.
Whatever the name of it is, yeah.
Movie you will watch, but probably not. I heard it's like is he like on a ship or something?
No, that was Greyhound. This one, he's like kind of a cowboy, and there's a little girl. It might be called Old something.
Old Man Tom Hanks.
Could be called that.
Old Man Tom Hanks is nice to a little girl for 4 hours.
Oh, sign me up.
And then probably dies.
Gee, goddamn. Do you guys think Jess is cynical at all? I would never have guessed.
Yeah, well, someone tell me the end of that movie and see if I'm right.
The name of it is called News of the World. I never would have remembered that.
That's a terrible title.
News of the World, like the Queen album?
Yeah, exactly. It's Tom Hanks as a robot holding the little girl in his hand, and he's got like a little bit of blood on his finger where you can tell they killed her.
So Jess is probably right. Not only is it a Paul Greengrass film based off of another IP that already exists, it is also a film where Tom Hanks plays a Civil War veteran who agrees to deliver a girl to her aunt and uncle. So, yes, Jess, you already called it. I don't have to watch it. We know how the movie ends. The end. You're not wrong. So on that note, let's play a preview for the second to last Culture Cast of December.
What?
Oh my God! Come on. Joel is really crazy about that young lady. You know, he's also a little bit on the edge when it comes to her, you know what I mean?
Bobby was just a normal teenager.
Is he okay? Ask him if he wants a Pop-Tart.
Hey, kids, until he bumped into Lainey and the Ettingers. Hey, shout, summertime.
This wasn't supposed to happen. Oh my God. From him.
Now, Bobby has 3 days to find himself.
That's rude, mister.
To pass high school.
I just thought SAT meant Saturday afternoon test.
And steal his best friend's girl.
Well, maybe you're not her type. I'm every girl's type.
Or his future is history.
Thank you for a frightening, confusing, strange, and dangerous time. What more could a girl ask for?
Jason Robards, Corey Feldman, Piper Laurie, Meredith Salinger, Harry Dean Stanton, Corey Haim.
You were expecting maybe Freddy Krueger.
Dream a little dream.
That's right, on the next Culture Cast for December, we're going to be talking about Dream a Little Dream, a film featuring the two Coreys, one of which is still alive. The other, unfortunately, seems to be going through some shit right now that I do not envy. I'm talking about Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. And our good friend, Father Malone, is going to be joining me because he picked that movie specifically. So, there you go. Until then...
I'm curious, Chris, with those dreams, are they for sale?
Oh my God, they could be, but they're more likely for rent at this point. As we know, the U.S. government has taken it upon themselves to not support small businesses like our dreams for sale. So now the dreams are, I guess they're probably fucking wholesale. We're just selling them wholesale. You could have them for free. Dreams for free. Speaking of dreams for sale, Mike, where can people find you when you and I aren't talking on the Culture Cast?
You can find me over at the Projection Booth Podcast, which is available at projectionboothpodcast.com.
What about you, Jess?
You can find me on Twitter at writer Jess Byard. Pretty much everything I do there, goes there. Twitter, Instagram, website, all of it there. If you want to hear Chris and I talking together, you can hear us on our other show, Scary Stories We Tell, where we talk about all things spooky, true crime, cryptids, anything weird. We like to talk about it. And you can also hear us on our other show, the One Season Show, where we talk about television that lasted one season.
As for me, you can find me on Twitter at Christmas Claus. You can find the podcast on Twitter at CultureCast and on the internet at culturecast.com. As always, we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/CultureCast. Go there, give us $1, get access to bonus content. Hey, what's there to lose? Only $1. That's the answer. And as always, big thanks to Jess and Mike for joining me, and we'll catch you on the next episode.